want you to be a part of our studio audience. If you're in the Toronto area, contact us.
Well, during the break, we asked our studio audience what was the news story that impacted them the most in 2011. Lots of opinions. Melissa, which one impacted you the most?
I think for me it was the earthquake in Japan, followed by the tsunami and the continuing ongoing battle to regain control over the Fukushima nuclear plant. And now just all over the world we're questioning, are our nuclear plants safe? Are they reliable? Or really, are we just an environmental disaster waiting to happen, whether here in Canada where we're not as prone to these events, or California and Japan and other areas?
Where next? Okay, someone else in the audience.
Mine was the news of the breakdown in Europe of Greece, Italy, and the overall economic system, because it is a real manifestation of the faulting leadership in the world, which have very little faith and very little social responsibility. And if we have continued to have leaders both in our country, in North America, in Europe, economics is, unfortunately, besides faith, a basis of existence. If that fails, only God can help us.
A lot is affected. All right, thank you. Well, today we're looking at the news stories that shaped our year. Our next interview is a Context exclusive.
It was a mysterious disappearance of an ordinary Canadian couple who vanished on their way to a trade show in Las Vegas. Reaching for a GPS and entering shortest route turned Al and Rita Chrétien onto a road from which they would never recover. Today, Rita is still hoping to find Al. For the first time, she tells her remarkable story of being stranded for 49 days in the Nevada wilderness.
The only way I could get through it was by praying and trusting the Lord to be with me and trusting that somehow He would get me through this each day.
And what do you think that kind of intimacy with God did for you in your fear of being alone?
It helped that fear fade. Every day the fear was less. And every day I started looking forward to talking to God. As soon as I woke up, I'd say, "Good morning, Lord. Here I am." And it was real.
What did you learn about God in that time?
I learned that maybe His time is not my time.
Well, next, when the news becomes the news, Rupert Murdoch's News of the World tabloid paper became the center of media attention when an alleged phone hacking scandal came to light. For years, journalists allegedly intercepted voicemails, including those of celebrities, politicians, and the royal family. The newspaper published its final edition in July and issued a formal apology. The news giant confessed, "We lost our way." A poignant reminder on the need for strong sourcing on ethics and morality. Canada was devastated to learn about the death of Jack Layton. The leader of the New Democrat Party died at the age of 61, just weeks after announcing he was battling a new form of cancer. Months before, he had led his party to its most successful federal election result ever. During the 2008 campaign, he spoke about the role of faith in his career.
It's been an active role. My folks got us involved in the youth movement of the United Church right from the get-go. I used to be in the junior choir before my voice changed. We used to go to a group. In fact, my mom and dad ran the group. It was called the Bible study class at 9:30 on Sunday morning. And 3 of us went. One was because my dad was running it, so naturally I had to go. And there were two others who went. And he said to us, "What would we have to do different?" And I'd say, "Well, you've got to make it more relevant. For example, what if you made it Sunday nights? And what if you changed it from Bible study class to some other name? Maybe some of our friends would come." So we came up with the name Infusers, the idea that you could infuse your ideas and your work and your enthusiasm into the community. And before you knew it, practically every kid in Hudson was coming. Mostly because it was the only way you could get out on a Sunday night was to say you were going down to Mr. Layton's Bible study class at the church. But we had all kinds of involvement, and he would and he'd bring people in, and we'd go out and meet with seniors. I learned the word octogenarian. I'd never heard of the word before. And we went out and met with seniors, and we'd sing with them or bring them things that they needed. And that whole notion of service So when I say, what do I derive from all of that? It's the concept of service and not to miss the opportunity to serve.
Another death that shocked many was that of Steve Jobs. The co-chair and CEO of Apple died at 56 after a battle with pancreatic cancer. In his biography, he's quoted as saying, "I'm about 50-50 on believing in God. For most of my life, I've felt that there must be more to our existence than meets the eye." Steve's final words were, "Oh wow, oh wow, oh wow."
It's been 10 years since the terrorist attacks that have come to be known simply as 9/11. More than enough time to reflect and process the terrible events of that day, but not nearly enough time to heal.
We've put a face to all those numbers. It's a very powerful room. It speaks of the people that were lost that day. Jonathan, 29 years old, married, with 2 little boys, called me that morning to turn the TV on, and I saw what everybody saw. And he said, "Dad, we're going to the World Trade Center." And I said, "John, be careful." He said, "Okay, Dad." That was the last time I spoke to my son.
It's East Africa's worst drought in 60 years, and it's killed tens of thousands of people in the last few months. In July, the UN officially declared a famine in 2 regions of Somalia, and it has since reached a total of 6 areas. Now more than 13 million people need urgent humanitarian aid. 750,000 Somalis risk dying of starvation. Extreme drought isn't the only cause of the famine. Skyrocketing food costs and violent political instability also play a role. Now Somalis are fleeing their homes to search for food and seeking help in overcrowded refugee camps in Kenya. How did the situation in East Africa get so bad? And can we prevent the famine from getting worse?
Well, we're going to go to our audience for a comment about that, and we have Keso here, who is originally from Somalia. And tell me, what kind of news are you hearing back from Somalia?
Well, the people back home want help, they need help, and that goes without saying, but they also want us to advocate on their behalf.
I've done this type of work for about 15 years, and this is about as bad conditions as I've seen in places. As Ahmed was saying, there shouldn't be a famine. I mean, there are difficult conditions there, but what people are going through is beyond what almost any human can bear, and it's particularly affecting the children who are the most vulnerable in these kind of conditions.
It's the only Christian clinic in the whole province, actually. I wanted to work with other Somali friends I have who have clinics, like why keep building clinics. But the one thing I wanted to do was to be able to pray for people, that we shouldn't just have a secular clinic. Muslims are people of faith, and we are people of faith. And even in the Quran it says that Jesus is a healer. So even I asked one of my Muslim friends one time, what will happen if I go out and do this, if we start praying for the sick in the name of Jesus? She said, well, we believe that, but we just didn't know you Christians did. I thought that was rather telling.
Well, the famine crisis in Somalia was one story that I felt starved for attention on the national media scale. But let's hear what our audience thinks. What do you think? Was enough media attention paid to the famine in Somalia? You've got an opinion.
I don't think there was, and I think it was a tragedy of immense proportion. The fact that hundreds of thousands of people were starving to death. People in North America can't go without food for one day without collapsing. It didn't affect us, so it didn't matter. I think there's compassion fatigue around famines, but we've got to get over it.
Very good. All right, well, coming up, more big stories from this year.